The Great Escape, El Salvador's Mega Prison Break, Chapter 1. A Night of Chaos. The city of San Vicente was quiet. The air was thick with the weight of the night, and the towering walls of El Salvador's mega prison stood like an unbreakable fortress against the moonlit sky. Inside, thousands of the country's most dangerous criminals lay locked away, their fates sealed behind iron bars. Or so the world thought. At exactly 2:47 a.m., a silent alarm flickered deep within the prison's security system. It was barely noticeable, a minor fluctuation in the surveillance feed, something a tired guard might brush off as a technical glitch. But this was no accident. In cell block D, a group of 20 hardened criminals were already moving in the shadows. These weren't just petty thieves or small-time gangsters. They were men who had carved their names in blood across the streets of El Salvador, MS-13 enforcers, drug lords, and convicted killers. Among them was El Lobo, a ruthless gang leader whose mere name struck fear into the hearts of even the most fearless officers. Tonight, they were leaving this prison. One by one, they slipped through an access tunnel hidden beneath the prison's old laundry facility, a tunnel that should never have existed. The details of their escape would later baffle investigators. Had someone from the inside helped them? Had a guard been bribed? Or worse? Was there a weakness in the so-called escape-proof security system? By 3:12 a.m., the prison sirens erupted. Guards rushed to their posts, their radios crackling with panicked voices. But it was too late. The hunt had begun. Chapter 2. The Mastermind's Plan. No one could escape El Salvador's mega prison, or so the world believed. The facility had been built as an impenetrable fortress, designed to hold the country's most dangerous criminals until their last breath. It had 30-foot concrete walls lined with razor wire, armed guard towers every 50 meters, high-tech facial recognition and thermal sensors. So how had 20 prisoners outsmarted it? The answer, investigators would later discover, was brilliantly simple, yet terrifyingly effective. The tunnel theory. Some believed the prisoners had spent months digging a secret tunnel, hiding the noise and dust with strategic distractions, a staged riot, a series of fake fights, and strategic bribery of low-ranking guards. The security breach theory. Others suspected a more modern approach, a hacked security feed, a guard paid to look the other way. An inside man who unlocked the right doors at the right moment. Whatever the method, it worked. By the time the prison warden called for a nationwide lockdown, the escapees had already melted into the darkness, vanishing into the labyrinth of the city. But freedom wouldn't come easily. Chapter 3. The Manhunt Begins. The sun rose over San Salvador, but there was no warmth in the air. Only the cold realization that 20 of the most dangerous criminals in the country were on the loose. The government's response was immediate. Roadblocks, checkpoints, drones sweeping the streets. Every officer, every soldier, every informant was put on high alert. President Nayib Bukele took to national television, his voice sharp with fury. "We will hunt them down. There will be no mercy." The escapees were already on the move, splitting into smaller groups to increase their chances of survival. Some headed for the countryside, hoping to slip through the borders. Others sought refuge in gang-controlled slums, blending into the underworld they once ruled. But the government had one clear mission: capture them, dead or alive. Chapter 4. The First Shots Fired. The first confrontation happened at 7:35 p.m., just hours after the escape. A police patrol unit received a tip-off. 2 of the fugitives had been spotted near a warehouse on the outskirts of San Miguel. The officers moved in. At first, everything was silent. The warehouse was dark, abandoned, the air thick with the scent of gasoline and rust. Then, gunfire. The air exploded with bullets as the fugitives opened fire. They had no intention of going back to prison. The shootout lasted 3 minutes. When it was over, 2 bodies lay in the dirt. The first deaths of the manhunt. But the hunt wasn't over. Chapter 5. A blood-soaked chase. The next 48 hours were a blur of chaos. Bodies began to fall. 2 more fugitives were gunned down trying to hijack a car near the Guatemalan border. Another was killed in a police raid on a suspected safe house. One was executed in the streets by rival gang members. His betrayal had cost him his life. For every escapee who died, the pressure on the remaining fugitives grew. They knew they were running out of time. Some tried to surrender, waving white flags, but officers were under orders to show no mercy. They were shot anyway. By the 4th day, 10 prisoners lay dead. The government declared victory. But was it justice, or was it an execution? The final captures. With 10 dead, only 10 fugitives remained. The police, fueled by public pressure and presidential orders, intensified their search. Informants were paid handsomely, and tip lines flooded with leads. One by one, the last fugitives were caught. One was found hiding in a storm drain, his body covered in filth. Another was caught disguised as a fisherman, trying to flee by sea. The final fugitive, El Lobo, was cornered in an abandoned church, his last stand ending in a hail of bullets. By the 5th day, the escape was over. The last prisoner was dragged back into his cell, his freedom ripped away just as quickly as it had come. Chapter 7. Aftermath. A nation divided. The government called it a victory. The prison had been reinforced. The security loopholes had been closed. The streets were safer, but not everyone agreed. Human rights groups condemned the shoot-to-kill orders. Families of the dead fugitives claimed it was an execution, not justice. The international media asked the hardest question of all. If the most secure prison in El Salvador wasn't enough to hold these men, then is anyone truly safe? For now, the gates of the mega prison remain locked. But in the dark corners of El Salvador, whispers grow louder. This wasn't the first escape, and it won't be the last. Because as long as there are men willing to risk everything for freedom, no prison will ever be unbreakable. Closing words. 20 prisoners risked everything for freedom, 10 paid with their lives, and the rest? Back behind bars. But one thing is certain, El Salvador's war on crime is far from over.